Today's project is a bit of a sequel of sorts to a previous video that I made about making a mold of a real cupcake. Today I'm going to use this cupcake liner to make a sculpture that will look like a cupcake was thrown and splattered on a wall. Once the sculpture is finished, I'll make a mold of that sculpture so I can make several replicas that will be able to decorate haunted house wall panels as well as various props. To start the sculpture, I'll first need to strengthen up the paper cupcake liner so that it'll be able to survive the making of the sculpture and the molding process. I'll do this by filling them with different expansion foams to see which one will be best for me to use for this project. I started by spraying some release agent on my cupcake tray, so that way if any expansion foam spills out of the liner, it hopefully won't get stuck to the tray. I'm going to pour different amounts of expansion foam into a couple of different liners because I need to pour the Goldilocks amount, and until I try, I won't know exactly how much I need to pour to get one to be just right. The purpose of the cupcake tray is to allow the liners to maintain the correct shape as the foam rises and solidifies. For this first batch, I'll be using Flex Foam at 5 from Smooth-On. I'm not sponsored by anyone, it's just what I'm using. Before making this project, I wasn't sure if flexible expansion foam or rigid expansion foam would be the best way to go. I decided to make a few of each to see which one would be the best one to use. Next, I'll be testing out Flex Foam at 6, which is Smooth-On's Pillow Soft Flexible Expansion Foam. Lastly, I'll be pouring a batch of foam at 4, which is a rigid expansion foam. With the expansion foam cupcake set aside to solidify, I'll get started on the clay part of my sculpture. I've traced out the circle of a piece of PVC onto a sheet of melamine. When the sculpture is finished, PVC will be the mold box for when I pour the silicone. I'll start by tracing out a cupcake liner and then sketching out what I want the splattered frosting to look like. This will give me a good jumping off point for when I start sculpting with the clay. It would appear that I decided to use a cupcake liner with the rigid expansion foam inside it. I cut off the excess foam that mushroomed out the top because it's not necessary for this project. When the clay sculpture is done, I'll have a nice flat surface to press into the clay. When working on this sculpture, I really wanted to give it a sense of movement. Even though it was a static prop, I wanted it to look like someone could really get a feeling for the speed it must have had when it slammed into whatever object that it hit. With the clay part of the sculpture done, it's time to press the foam-filled cupcake liner into the clay. Next up is hot gluing the PVC mold box to the melamine and mixing up a batch of silicone. When sculpting the cupcake splatter, I made sure to leave about a half an inch of open space between the clay and the mold box. When hot gluing the PVC to the melamine board, I need to make sure that I fully seal the two together. If I'm not careful, the silicone will leak out of a pinhole if I let it, on account of how sneaky it is. A quick coating of mold release and it's on to mixing up a batch of silicone. For this project, I'll be using Mold Max 30 from Smooth-On and I'll be mixing up 2 separate batches. As always, I gotta take a moment to show that sweet silicone mixing action. For this first pour, I'm going to pour a small amount of silicone over the whole sculpture and allow it to be pulled and stretched by gravity to a thin layer. Doing this pops many of the bubbles close to the mold subject and will hopefully result in a bubble-free casting. Once the silicone has stretched and the bubbles have popped, I pour in the rest of the silicone. After the first batch has had a few hours to begin to set up, I start to mix the second batch of silicone. Just one more fix of those satisfying swirling colors of silicone mixing. For this pour, I don't have to be as delicate as I did for the last. Since the first pour is partially set, it's actually what's maintaining the pristine surface of the mold subject. It's demolding day. It's like opening a little silicone wrapped present. I slowly cut the hot glue all the way around the edge to break the seal. With the mold free of the melamine and the PVC, it's time to clean out all of the clay. The clay came out for the most part, but it's going to need a bit of a bath to get the rest of it. There we go, all clean and ready to start making some castings. Next, I'll trim off the rough edges of the silicone. It's time to glove up. To make a casting with this mold, I'll first line the inside surface with a hard coat. For this hard coat, I'll be using Onyx Fast Set. Once I poured it into the mold, I continue to brush the onyx around on the sides of the mold until it begins to set. As evidenced by the name, Onyx Fast Set is a 2-part urethane resin that cures very quickly. Typically, when I start mixing it, I can feel the cup heating up in my hand. With the onyx set, the next step is to pour some expansion foam. The expansion foam will fill the onyx shell that I just made and add some strength to the casting. With the expansion foam set, it's time to demold this casting and see what I got. Hey, it looks perfect! Next, I need to use my saw to cut off the excess expansion foam. Then I'll use my sander to clean up the little bit of extra foam that I couldn't get with the saw. It's all cleaned up and perfectly smooth. But before I can glue it to a wall panel, it's time for the next step. Paint! To start, I'll spray it with some spray paint primer. For this one, I'll begin by painting the frosting splatter with 2 coats of this fun orange color. With the first coat dry, it's time to do a second coat to cover up any spots where the first coat is too thin. For a bit of contrast, I'm going to paint the cupcake liner with 2 coats of this rich blue color. Both paints are a semi-gloss finish, which may not be realistic looking, but it will be easier to clean than a matte finish. And now to finish it up with a final coat of paint. And there they are. I ended up making a couple of them for the reveal. I really like how this blue and orange one turned out. It definitely reminds me of something from the Nickelodeon channel towards the end of the late 90s. I also made this second one the same way that I made the first, but I used blacklight reacting paint on it. I hope to do a circus or clown themed haunt in the future, so this will totally fit in with the bright and colorful whimsy of that attraction. I also made one out of the Foamit 6 expansion foam that I mentioned earlier. Something like this would be perfect to glue onto a clown's costume or even use as a prosthetic that could be glued onto an actor's face. Since it's soft and squishy, an actor can't fall on it and hurt themselves. Here's a quick demonstration showing how soft it is. I like this mold quite a bit. It's simple and easy to use. It also has all the details to make a good looking prop. However, it is a little difficult not to have a bit of paint bleed over from the cupcake liner to the frosting or vice versa. But I think this project turned out exactly how I wanted it to. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Hey you. Yeah, you. Thanks for watching.